A few months ago, I counted down my favorite scenes from films directed by Steven Spielberg. He has directed so many great moments, though, that I felt bad for leaving some films off the list. Well, now I'm back at it again with 10 more fantastic Spielberg scenes from movies I did not include in the first video. Rather than go in order from number 10 to number 1, I decided to do something a little different and order these films by release date. So here are the next top best Steven Spielberg scenes. The first confrontation in Duel. Spielberg's feature film debut, Duel is a thrilling and exciting movie about an average Joe dealing with a bothersome and unseen truck driver. While there is an earlier scene where Dennis Weaver's driver passes him, the first major confrontation between the two starts things off with a bang, and the suspense never lets up. Why is the truck so intent on ruining this man's day and potentially driving him off the road? We're not given a reason, and that actually makes their scuffle all the more terrifying. This altercation is also an example of Spielberg's excellent use of editing and sound, as he uses both filmmaking tools to ramp up the suspense. Even this early in his career, Spielberg was already creating scenes that would impress several years later. The Anything Goes number in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I actually considered putting the scene on the initial list. Opening an Indiana Jones movie with a tap-dancing song number out of a 1930s musical seems like an odd choice, but I think it makes for a really fun way to start the movie. Spielberg's decision to begin the film like this was because he wanted to see if he could handle directing a musical one day, and he definitely proved he could. He successfully channeled his inner Busby Berkeley here, and the dancers and orchestration of the classic Cole Porter song add a lot to the energy of the number. It also fits thematically with Temple of Doom, as the song is telling the audience to prepare themselves for all the wild things that are going to happen, like, say, someone getting their beating heart removed from their chest. This is an excellent sequence, and one that makes me especially excited for Spielberg's upcoming West Side Story adaptation. Young Indy in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's fitting that a film specifically about the relationship between our favorite archaeologist hero and his father would start with him in his younger adventuring days. Spielberg took inspiration from his time as a Boy Scout in helping devise this scene, and it leads towards a terrific action sequence. River Phoenix was a great choice, played the young Indy, properly showing his determination and need to do the right thing. The film includes some clever reasons for why Indiana has his famous hat and whip, and even Harrison Ford's famous scars acknowledged. The opening also connects well with the main story. John Williams unsurprisingly wrote a glorious score on top of this scene, and this makes for a delightful origin for Indiana Jones. The Spider Robots in Minority Report. This scene provides so many different moods, and Spielberg handles all of them effectively. Tom Cruise's framed pre-crime captain, John Anderton, has an eye transplant to avoid detection, and the authorities attempt to search for him using electronic spiders. There's definitely a horror-like atmosphere as we see these spiders crawl through the walls, and a bit of commentary with what an invasion of privacy they are with the ways in which they scan people's eyes. The tension is definitely high in this scene as they make their way towards Anderton. However, Spielberg also incorporates some humor too, like when a married couple stops arguing in order to get scanned and Anderton's unfortunate switcheroo at a fridge. It's a brilliantly mounted sequence in a science fiction film noir that has proven quite prescient. Frank outsmarting Hanratty in Catch Me If You Can. Part of the joy of this film comes from watching Frank Abagnale Jr. think quick on his feet as he outruns the FBI and takes on a number of jobs and roles. Seeing the cat-and-mouse chase between him and Agent Carl Hanratty is delightful, and this scene where they encounter each other, but Hanratty doesn't realize until too late, shows how quick-witted Frank is. Leonardo DiCaprio oozes charm and showcases his convincing ability to lie, even knowing this man is searching for him. Even though Hanratty is smart, Frank is smarter, and this brilliantly sets off the strange relationship between them that carries through the film. The first tripod attack in War of the Worlds. For this modern set adaptation of H.G. Wells' famous alien invasion story, the filmmakers had the idea to have the aliens come from underneath the ground, rather than flying from space. Thus we get this scary scene where they first appear and start vaporizing everyone. The visual effects artists really captured the size and fright of these tripods, as well as the horrifying image of what happens when they kill someone. I actually think War of the Worlds is one of the best representations of the fear that gripped people following 9/11, with that uncertainty of something terrible potentially happening in one's own neighborhood. That combination of thematic terror with Spielberg's visual imagination leads to an excellent sequence that starts Tom Cruise's journey for survival. The Phone Call in Munich. With this film, Spielberg crafted an effective 70s-style thriller that looked at the cost of revenge. Quite a few scenes build tension as we watch these secret operatives kill those responsible for the 1972 Munich massacre. And this scene is a prime example as it portrays the dangers of the operation and the innocent people who could potentially be caught in the middle. We see how not everything can go exactly as planned, and how even the smallest unpredictable change has an effect, and communication is key. Spielberg especially uses sound to great effect, cutting it off at the needed moment and slowly bringing it back. They do succeed at pulling this one off, but it also shows these men how cautious they need to be. The motorcycle chase in Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. When making this list, I knew I wanted to include a scene from the fourth Indiana Jones movie, because I actually find it very entertaining, and thought Spielberg directed several great action sequences. Initially, I wanted to include the infamous fridge scene, partly because I do genuinely enjoy it and think it fits with the how is he going to get out of this one serial nature of the films, and partly to be cheeky. However, I decided to go with the simple thrills of the motorcycle chase. It's an early scene that shows the winning partnership between Indy and Mutt, and Spielberg makes excellent use of the location and villains. It's just a really well-mounted scene, with some brilliant camera work, charming stunt choreography, and John Williams' energetic score. There's a playful quality to the scene, and the humor works nicely too. It's a fun ride, and proves Indiana Jones' spark had not lessened after so many years off the screen. Dream Country in the BFG. I've seen the BFG dismissed as boring by some, and the pacing is certainly more leisurely than we expect from family films nowadays. However, that's part of why I found it so appealing. Spielberg really allowed you to take in the various places Sophie and the big friendly giant visit, and their time in Dream Country especially captured the required magic. The visuals are spectacular, and you really feel the enjoyment they both get in seeing this magical world. It's especially important for the BFG, as capturing dreams and bringing them to children is the one respite he gets from the bigger, more ferocious giants who torment him. Spielberg does a lovely job of soaking in the environment and giving us the time to appreciate it. The BFG has long struck me as having a very Miyazaki-like vibe, and scenes like this inspired that comparison. And the final Steven Spielberg scene I'm going to mention is the Shining scene in Ready Player One. This film is set in the world where everyone is consumed by and obsessed with pop culture, so it makes sense for there to be a scene where the characters visit an actual piece of pop culture. Apparently in the book, the lead protagonists enter war games. However, for the film adaptation, Spielberg chose to switch this to The Shining to pay homage to his friend Stanley Kubrick, and I found the result a sweet tribute to the director. The visual effects team brilliantly and accurately recreated the set of the Overlook Hotel, and it also goes to show how lasting and fondly remembered The Shining remains. However, the scene also advances the plot in major ways, and leads to a great moment with Artemis when she gets the next key, so they can go to the next part of the Easter egg hunt. That I've managed to talk about 20 different Spielberg scenes through 2 videos is a credit to what a master filmmaker he is. I'm very excited for West Side Story and any future films he decides to direct. Here's a director who will continue to enchant, entertain, and surprise us for many years to come. See you next time.